Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode until the question and answer session of today's conference. At that time, you may press star, then the number 1 on your phone to ask a question. I would like to inform all parties that this conference is being recorded. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the conference over to Tony Sargis. Thank you. You may begin.
Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anthony Sargis with the U.S. Department of Commerce Office, Connecticut Export Assistance Center. We've been hearing a lot over the last week or so regarding support for COVID-19 emergency supplies and manufacturing. And we've had a lot of questions regarding companies' capabilities and the different resources that are available. Earlier this week, I was talking with Manuel and Matt Barden, who are here to speak with us. They are the co-founders of Industrial Marketing out of New Hampshire, and they're going to provide a step-by-step guide to help manufacturers highlight their capabilities and allow buyers in a high-demand items to quickly identify needed manufacturing capabilities and supplies. They're going to probably talk about 12 to 15 minutes. And then I also have my colleague. We had a lot of Michigan clients register as well, so I reached out to my colleague, Murat Mufari, who's a senior trade specialist in the East Michigan office, and he's going to talk a little bit about what the state of Michigan is doing as far as procurement. Before I pass it over to Mark and Matt, I just want to cover a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded, and we will share that link with everyone by tomorrow morning. The recording should be available. And I also will share some federal resources available if you have questions on the federal level, and then other resource links. Today's webinar is fairly short, but we are going to allow some time for questions towards the end of the presentation, and the operator will give instructions on how to do that. Now I'm going to turn it over to Mark Manuel with Industrial Marketing. Mark?
Thank you very much, Tony, and welcome. Today's presentation happened as a result of a call I had Friday night at 6 o'clock with Ann Evans, who runs the Department of Commerce Export Division in Connecticut. I had the pleasure of meeting Ann over 3 years ago, where she organized an event with over 400 manufacturers in Hartford, Connecticut, global supply chain chief of Pratt Whitney, Sikorsky, and Airbus. And I have to tell you, I've never seen anyone who is so tirelessly committed to helping manufacturing succeed. So I'm always available to Ann at any time manufacturing. So Ann, thank you very much for thinking of us. And any one of you that know Ann know it's no surprise she's on the phone at all hours of the day and night thinking about how she can help folks. I guess you could call this presentation a rapid response presentation. So first thing Monday morning, Matt and I were speaking with Tony Sargis, and after a 30-minute brainstorm, we came up with this idea that we hope can help you. One of the thoughts struck me as I was driving to work this morning, talking to Talk Radio. Someone called in recognizing the people in healthcare and public safety that are fighting the virus, and they should be recognized. But I also recognize the people on this call, the essential businesses that are supporting our country's economy through these very uncertain times. I know I'm rushing. It's the first time I've ever done a webinar with this many people, so I apologize for being a bit nervous. But my name is Mark Manuel. I own a small company called Industrial Marketing along with Matt Barden. We're entrepreneurs just like you. I love manufacturing, and I admire entrepreneurs who own their own business. When I worked in a family business until I was 29, I was always worried about making payroll, employees, paying the mortgage, expenses, and hoping that at the end of the month we had money left over. So we're all in this together. We recognize the stress. Our approach to this was we brainstormed, Matt and I, with Tony and Ann, with the hope that we would be able to, what would we do if we owned a manufacturing company? So with that as a backdrop, let me introduce my business partner, Matt Barden. Matt has an ability to make the obvious simple. Amazon makes it easy to buy, so they win. The goal today in the next 12 to 15 minutes or less is that you'll be able to take this concept and apply it to your business. Matt?
Thank you. All right, so we're going to jump right into this. First, I got to give the disclaimer that I have 3 kids downstairs all watching Peppa Pig, so hopefully that holds them at bay, and we can get through this real quickly. When we came up with the idea for what to share, what we wanted to do is give something quick, fast, and likely something you already have at your disposal that you can redeploy to help with the entire push right now with the COVID-19. Being essential businesses, that means that you're the ones keeping this entire country running right now. You're the ones on the front line. So we're really proud to be able to help any way we can, and we certainly want to be a resource for you. So let's just jump into the quick what we're going to talk about. There's not a lot of transitions in this WebEx, so the PowerPoint doesn't have those pretty transitions that we would like. So just bear with me. But we're going to just cover a quick and actionable tip for helping you guys join the fight against COVID-19. So really what this is about is taking your standard capabilities sheets. Many websites have different capabilities, and instead repurposing that into a COVID-19 specific sheet. It's going to make it easier for buyers, procurement, other professionals, get through and quickly identify what you have. Now, every single business is very different, so there's no cookie cutter approach. I wish there was, but hopefully we'll be able to give you the right tools and resources to get through this, and your team's in-house. This is something that you'll be able to come up with some real creative ideas. I'm really excited to see what you guys all come up with. But I want to show you some formats and best practice that you can work with, how to get that data into a worksheet, then how do you deploy that data so people can find it on your website, different tools that you might have, and ultimately ways to promote it so people know that you actually have these things. It's really important. I think there's a lot of miscommunication right now everywhere. So availability and things like that are just so crucial. And I think this is a quick and easy way to get in front of this. So let me jump through. I'll go the other way on this slide. So the first step we're talking about is building a COVID-19 rapid capabilities page. Typically, a lot of sites have different capabilities already listed. What we propose to you guys consider is taking that data and shortlisting it so that it is in those high demand categories so that people can quickly get to it. You know, there's certainly a million different industries that manufacturing and distributors serve. And as we know, some of those industries are on pause right now. So by taking that data that you already have and consolidating it into a new page, we can now highlight that information and make it even more actionable, and people can get to that information faster. So it doesn't show up as well as we'd like on a PowerPoint presentation. We will provide the files themselves so you can access these and see them more clearly. But what you're going to see is we're going to help you articulate what a capabilities page looks like. If you don't already have a capabilities page, line card, things like that you're already working with, you're going to see that this is going to be a very fruitful exercise already for your business, and it's worth doing it because buyers, engineers, procurement, all these people do want to know your capabilities anyways. So this is an opportunity for you to get in front of this and better serve your clients. We're going to take that a step further. So make sure you include all your certifications, everything. It's a quick sheet so that someone can make a decision quickly and say you might be the right company. I know that one thing I'll add to this is many companies, just even assembly services, putting ventilators together. You may not manufacture all the parts, but do you have the ability to manufacture or assemble things? How much can you handle right now? What is your capacity? These are things that are certainly very helpful to people that are in the need in researching. One thing we have, it's an Excel sheet. I tried to put it all on here. It's a framework for you to go and start putting all the capabilities, the services, and things that you do that can help contribute to this COVID-19 push, if you will. It's all over the place. It's not just medical, transportation. There's so many different industries impacted, and we know it's like a bullwhip of supply chain movements where some things are really being stressed and other things are down. But overall, there's a lot of activity. So being able to go through that and collect all the data, put it into a nice workable sheet, you're going to want this for other things as you reference. Later on, we'll cover the different resources in the procurement. This will help you fill out those different procurement and RFQs and all these things that you have to send in. You'll have a quick list with all your capabilities already listed. So we think it's going to be helpful as an exercise anyways. But there's quite a few places you can go get data. I know sometimes it's real technical. Our friends at ThomasNet have built an incredible website that has very high quality data of capabilities and categories. So you can research companies similar to yours that might have that if you want some ideas. There's certainly competitors have some of these things. So there's ideas of getting it from there if you don't have these things. And then as a Google guy myself, I'm a big fan of Google Search Console and looking at your own data. So hopefully you guys are watching this. It's one thing that as a Google person, I'm always watching. And I'm absolutely amazed at the resiliency in some categories when it comes to the search volume and the need of it. This tells us where demand is. And so I just put up a couple screenshots, in this case of vacuum metallizing. You can see month over month, year over year, month over month period here, that in some categories demand is up, some keywords demand is up. I would be using this data to help understand what things are in demand, and there's a lot of resources out there to put this thing together and give you some more understanding where your markets are and how can you help. Demand means that people need stuff, so jump through here. All right, so how do we deploy this data? First, I recommend we make an actual web page with your capabilities. Most of you might already have those pages. That's great. I would shortlist it and make it a more consolidated one. As you can see in the top right, we have suggest a big call-out button that says, here's your rapid capabilities. Turn this thing into a downloadable brochure so you can share it with people. You're gonna have a few different options that people can take this format. I like the idea of a web page and a PDF downloadable, so that's something to consider. Ways to promote the capabilities. I could have probably gone on for a long time of different things I come up with, but right out of the gates, any kind of email list you have, your current people that you work with, the prospective ones that you're working with, any kind of email list, let them know through a communication that you've now done this step and updated a special area. You're creating extra capacity for certain products and product lines that are in demand so that you can handle it. I would write potentially a blog post to articulate what steps your company is taking and reference this new page that you have shortlisted so people can see it, syndicate that. Press releases, there's unbelievable resources out there for getting this out. You obviously, traditional press releases can go out announcing that you've made changes internally to support the fight against COVID-19. I would also let you know that ThomasNet has a free press release service. I'm not sure if you know about it. It's an unbelievable audience of different procurement buyers. These are all free steps that you can do yourself, and you want to leverage all these things that have been out there and are there. The old stuff that we used to do is still in play today. Nothing's changed. We're just changing the messaging so that we can better align ourselves with the needs right now. Local news is another great opportunity. I have some customers that have gotten massive orders for things like ventilators and things like that. They need to hire. This is an opportunity to let people know that you're hiring. You can help with jobs like that in the community. There's a lot of different impacts that this can certainly have. And then obviously social media is another way to push that message out. So that kind of covers most of the areas that we would want to talk about. In terms of resources, once you have all this, your capabilities are there. We put together a few different places. I know Tony and the team are going to continue to update where you can find who needs what. There's certainly a disconnect, but you'll be armed hopefully going in there with these different data sheets that you've now created so that you can quickly get through their procurement process and update that. One reference that we use is the ThomasNet. They've created a very amazing state-by-state portal that's a free guide to different resources and whatnot. There's so many different things happening right now that there's, certainly just speak to all your different associations, your trade associations. Everyone's in this thing. And I don't think there's a single person out there that doesn't want this thing to come to an end, and we have our V-Day party as soon as possible. So I think it's so important that we're all in on this together and just be open to sharing. It's amazing the resources that we all have access to, and people are more than happy to be helpful. That kind of runs through most of my work here, Tony. I'm happy to...
Matt, did you want to mention something about kind of the worksheets and some of the information that you and Mark were going to share with the folks that are on the call to help them kind of run through that?
Yeah, let me go back to that because I know that it's going to be technical. Short of sharing my screen. So it's on a Google Share Doc, this particular worksheet. The idea is that you're going to go through it and start punch listing your general capabilities, your different services. If you have capacity, I would add notes and extra things that make it really easy and useful for people to understand. Just because on a static website right now, someone says they can make a ventilator, if you don't have capacity, you want to make it easy for people to know that you can't do it. And that's probably a big disconnect right now with sourcing online is information's not updated as quick as possible. So the more accurate your information can be, and if you have the ability for a 2-week turn time on something and how many parts, this is a great exercise for you to talk about that. Obviously, I would hope that, a 2 to 4 month turnaround on things is too long, and people are looking for actionable information that can help them right now with the immediacy. And so I think this is an easier one to update in terms of this worksheet. If you see in the back, this row goes quite a few places, including, if you're a machine shop, your tolerances that you can cut in, how many parts you can produce, how fast. The more information you can give to people that are actionable in solving their problem right now is where you're going to want to go with that. We're going to give a link to be able to download this worksheet somewhere for yourselves. We'll probably include that in an email out, and certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have coming up about that worksheet. And you'll also be able to see the, sort of an end result looking example of what we've done in the past with capabilities, so that you can see what that might look like as an example for how yours could look. Putting those two together should help you quickly get through this. Again, we're repurposing the old capabilities and just shortening it to be more actionable for the current needs right now. Does that make sense, Tony?
And yeah, definitely, Matt. And just one thing, obviously it's important because if folks are searching your website, they can see that information. And Marat's going to talk about it in a minute on the Michigan side and what the state's doing. But as you're submitting information to the state and the federal government for different requests, obviously this is information you're going to need to submit as well. So it kind of works in two ways, the use of the information and your capabilities, your current capabilities during this situation. And then, Matt, one other question on as far as associated keywords currently and how that interacts with your website and, how things are currently being searched. Is there anything that companies should consider in that realm of changing keywords that can help them boost their search, Google, Bing, et cetera?
Yeah, so as an SEO guy, I think everyone understands the number one thing they're used to hearing is SEO does take some time. And so in terms of immediacy, what you want to look at, if I was doing it right now, time is not on your side for some of these things, and AdWords might be the play there just to get in front of something. But what you really want to do is spend time. I don't think most companies do enough of it, is to pour through your actual Google Search Console data and be in front of it. This is the most powerful thing that a business owner could have access to right now. I wake up and I look at the news and I see the economy overall is shut down. But when I look at my data from the sites and procurement, it's not shut down. It's retail's hurting, travel's hurting. But what I see is certain segments, certainly medical, this is live data that we're looking at here, for instance. And you can see I did a difference, and search volume's up in the last 28 days in these particular categories for, in this case, a vacuum metallizing website. And you wouldn't think of that, but a lot of these end products still need these services to get through these things. At the end of the day, DoD is still building all of their projects. They're not going to slow down on the F-35 project if they can. In fact, they'd probably like to speed it up now, get more people working. So we can see that search data, and I would leverage that. That'd be a whole lesson, though, how to get through it. So.
Matt, one more question before I turn it over to Murat, if you can go to that slide too. Is as far as service companies and distributors, we got a question in. Should they be considering kind of doing these things as well as far as capabilities during this current situation?
Yeah, in my opinion, like, even if I'm a service company, say you're a moving company and you have trucks available. What is the capacity of your trucking? If I need 6 million boxes of masks moved, we're going to need trucks to do it. And the old, ways of buying kind of went up. This is a really interesting time because in the manufacturing space, we almost never saw an emergency. In the consumer world, if you need a plumber, it's one thing if you're doing a bathroom remodel. You think about it for a long time. You make a long decision. But when your pipe bursts, you're making decisions instantly. You're not shopping the same way you used to. You say, I need that thing fixed now because it's leaking all over my house. And that's the mode we're in right now, is if you have the right solution at the right capacity to do it, you want people to know that. If it's a cleaning company, how many people can you get in? I'm not going to call a cleaning company to come help clean a hospital if it's 3 employees. If you have a workforce that can be deployed almost like an army, as a marketer, I'd say you have a shot if you can at least articulate how many people you can deploy to help keep these places open. I mean, every grocery store is, I'm amazed at these kids that are working, on the front lines every day. They have to clean those places, so I don't know what the opportunities are going to be, but I know if you put that information in a place that people can make quick decisions and make it easier. I think Mark mentioned it, but I always say Amazon makes it incredibly easy to buy, and that's why everyone buys from Amazon. And if you just think of that as your own business, how easy can I make it for people to buy from me, then you will get better results. There's not a magic bullet for it, but you want to put that information together for right now. And it gives you opportunities to talk about this stuff.
Matt, shoot over Matt makes a great point.
Go ahead, Mark.
Tony, I just want to mention one thing. So once you put together this information, you get your capabilities, you've got a PDF. I can't underscore the need to be very proactive and get this out there. I have a client that just went through this process and put it on Facebook. Now, Facebook is not something that I recommend to clients, but especially in the local areas when they're saying, hey, we can help, let us know if anyone that you know works at a company looking for this. So everybody is very concerned. Everybody is really thinking about manufacturing in a different light and want to help get through this. So go through this exercise, create the data sheets, place it on your website, place it on the other resources where people are actively looking. But my belief is put it everywhere. So.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Matt, if you could slide over to that last slide with the Michigan information, and then I'm going to turn it over to Murat Mutfari in our East Michigan office, and he's just going to say a couple of words regarding that. Murat?
Hey, Tony, thanks. Yeah, so pretty much everything was covered. The Michigan portal, the Pure Michigan Business Connect portal, is just a great example of how a state is consolidating both suppliers and interested buyers into one portal that's easy to search. For Michigan companies, I think the importance is that you get on there, and if your company is already registered, that obviously you update the capabilities within this scope of needs within the COVID-19 products needed. If you're already, let's say you're a manufacturer that's in aerospace and you're pivoting to some of these other supply needs, it's just a matter of updating your company profile and capabilities. If you have not registered on the portal, this is the first stop you really want to make And then kind of piggybacking off of what was just said, I've seen a lot of examples, again, using all the different social media outlets. LinkedIn is a great example, Facebook and others, to just get on there and start creating buzz about what capabilities you have and what you're doing as a company. We had one example just yesterday. A company made a post about face shields that they had produced and that they were donating to a local hospital. You know, I mean, that's just a great example of marketing. You know, it starts with donations, and then the next thing you know, that gets shared. I know I ended up sharing the New York State Economic Development portal for COVID-19 products with that Michigan company right after they shared, that post. So get registered and then create buzz. Like was mentioned, SEO sometimes takes a little bit of time, but some of these other social media outlets and local news media outlets can really rapidly multiply that buzz. And both state, local, federal funds are starting to trickle down, and I think the procurement process as a whole is going to really speed up here in the near future.
Well, thanks, Murat. And again, Michigan, we had a lot of clients from Michigan dial in, so I asked Murat to call in. But again, I have a slide from New York as well. So each state has their own process and kind of the products that they're looking for. So I know that Mark and Matt said that the Coronavirus Resource Hub on ThomasNet was going to try to incorporate all the state information on there. That'll be great to have. So there's one consolidated place where you could go and look at the different opportunities that are currently available. And then we also, Murat sent me this morning links to the federal different procurement opportunities with FEMA. And we'll definitely send that out to all the clients shortly after the call and when I have the net replay available. But let's turn it over to some questions. So I'm going to have Jennifer open the line for questions at this time.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question, please press *1, unmute your phone, and record your name clearly. Your name is required to introduce your question. If you need to withdraw your question, press *2. Again, to ask a question, please press *1, and it will take a few moments for questions to come through. Please stand by.
Thank you, Jennifer. Mark or Matt, do you have anything you want to add before we take our first question? Usually it takes a second or two.
We're just really pleased to be listening and be here.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly could talk about a lot of things, but I think, back to that SEO point, it still makes sense to know the keywords that people are looking for because they will come up locally. So I don't want to downplay. If you have a good site, it will. There's a way to rank it quickly, but it's generally you want some of these things in place before this. So I think that was a good point. You want to look at different channels that you can share this information with.
Thank you. Jennifer, do we have any questions?
We do. The first question comes from John McLaughlin. Your line is now open.
Hey, John, how are you?
I'm very well. Gentlemen, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Oh, fantastic. Listen, I just the only question I have is because you may note that as sales director, I'm not a manufacturer. I work for a company that is we work with the manufacturers, and we're in all 50 states. We're a business IT infrastructure service company. And I just wanted to note that this whole thing caught our company kind of off guard. Our website is actually partially down and was being worked on when all this fell apart. So I created a one-page alert notice utilizing channels, pushing it through our local chamber who have passed it out, and we're using our Facebook page and things of that nature. And I guess the question is do you not also see efficacy and utility for the people that service these manufacturers as we take a nod sort of towards the cascading effect these types of crises do sort of provide?
So for me, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, manufacturing between your tier 3s, your 2s, your primes, it all goes down and upstream, and it's unbelievably interconnected. I mean, we've seen globally how interconnected we are, and how that disruptions work its way through.
Right.
So to your point, yeah, I think those are some of the most crucial. Obviously, if they're an assembler of certain crucial parts, and you're a main supplier of one of those parts, they're going to want to know that
our product is actually the service. And what we're finding is we service a lot of tier 1 manufacturers in southeastern Michigan. And while they're doing sort of either remote at home, but also some limited manufacturing going on, depending on how they're retasking their manufacturing operations, what I'm saying is I think the extension here is that it's not just, resource as manufacturing, but also resource as service to manufacturing, because the cascading effect is going all the way through. And I just,
Sure.
I wanted to know your thoughts about that. That's all.
No, John, that's a good point. We actually had a call yesterday, a special topics call on kind of cybersecurity concerns while, we have a massive amount of people teleworking. And there's definitely a huge need in the IT service sector to service these manufacturers because, the number of licenses they might have for a VPNs change, and there's a lot of factors that change. So I think it's an impact across the board. This webinar specifically was focused on kind of the manufacturing base, but it's definitely across the board. Correct.
So you do understand our problems then.
Absolutely. Thank you, John, for the question. Jennifer, do we have any other questions? Thank you.
Yes, sir. The next question comes from Vincent Battaglia. Your line is now open.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I wanted to commend you for doing this. I was in Washington briefly. I'm involved with a few things and with the DOD and stuff. And this is not going to end. I mean, pretty soon you're going to see minimum inventory legislation where there's going to be a list of items that are going to have to be 50% made in the United States besides just offshore. So this capabilities index that you're creating is going to be probably a pretty big tool that could be used for a long time. I own one of the biggest tool and die shops in the state of Connecticut, and one of the strengths of Connecticut is precision metal manufacturing. And most of these shop owners are like me. They're generational, they're engineers, and we're not marketing people. So this whole thing is like wow to me, And the only comment I have is that I think there needs to be a way to connect the dots. Okay, so if you have all of these resources, and let's say 3M needs to build a machine to make COVID masks. Well, if you had one manager and you engaged 10 tool shops, you could make that whole machine in like weeks, literally weeks. So that's the only thing. I guess you're saying, yeah, us on the manufacturing side, we need to get the message out of what our capabilities are. But how does that message get to an end user, like maybe somebody in the government that's trying to get a resource started or get something made? If you could explain that a little bit more, I'll stop talking.
Vincent, what I'll do is I can't directly answer your question, but I'm going to bring this question in our state in Connecticut to Colin Cooper and see if there's anything on the state being done as far as consolidating this information. So I can't answer your question directly, but I noted your question. I think it's a really good point, and I'll bring this up to Colin and see what he can come back with, and I'll share that with everyone on the list.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, Vincent. Appreciate it. Jennifer, we're going to stay on for a few minutes here. We have some extra time. We started a little late, so we're going to take a few more questions.
Thank you. The next question comes from Sanjeev Shah. Your line is now open.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sanjeev Shah. I'm calling from Detroit, and we have been working with a lot of automotive companies, supporting them and their supply base during the crisis. And we naturally are not into medical field, but we believe that we can provide the same level of support with a team of 200 people, and only just because we believe that it is our civic duty to provide this support and knowledge. So this is what we would like to offer, if that can be useful to you guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I think we'll connect you, Sanjeev, with Marat, too, after the call, and make sure you can connect with him, and he can connect you with the different resources in Michigan that might be able to assist with that.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Jennifer?
Next question comes from Ellie Brewer. Your line is now open.
Hey, Ellie.
Hi, it's actually Shelly, but that's okay.
Shelly, how you doing, Shelly?
Good. I had kind of piggybacking off of some of their other questions, just wondering if you know of any places where there is like a bid process or like a place to post this. Like once we have it, I know we can do social media and things like that, but you mentioned a portal, and I wasn't sure what you meant by that, like what the portal was.
I think you're going to be looking at the different state portals. I don't know where you're located out of, but let's just use Michigan.
We're in Michigan, yep.
Yeah, so I think on that portal, this is a part of the information that you're going to have to supply to the different states or the federal government as you're moving forward, kind of what your current capabilities are, and that's going to be submitted with kind of the information that you're going to, submit through those different channels. You're definitely going to want to have that available.
Because you mentioned ThomasNet on here. Is that one of the portals?
So, Mark, if you want to mention the Coronavirus Resource Hub from ThomasNet and kind of what that information has consolidated
into. ThomasNet is very committed and for 122 years has supported manufacturing. And they've invested a lot of time and money to create this free Coronavirus Resource Hub. So, again, you can place you can find out all the resources you need for each state. There's all kinds of resources, so we will send that link out at the end of the call as well. But it is amazing. I know that there's over 1 million active registered users on ThomasNet. People go there directly every month, over 1 million people. So it is definitely a resource that every manufacturer of this call should know about and go and check out. And I believe that every company is entitled to a free listing. So if you haven't looked at your listing, you can go there and sign up for free and add some of these capabilities. So these are the kind of things we want to make you available of free stuff that everyone, now that, we can't go to trade shows to get business, you can't go and visit in person. We've got to be adapting to the crisis. And this is what we would do if we were, in your shoes today.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelley. Appreciate the question. Jennifer, do we have any other questions?
Absolutely. The next question comes from Carolyn Dennis. Your line is now open.
Hello, Carolyn. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. Thank you. I want to also extend my thanks for putting this together so rapidly. Tony, I think the previous question, you already answered this, and that is that the state of Connecticut doesn't have something at this very instant similar to the Michigan site where you're connecting buyers and sellers.
I have not seen anything yet. We were actually emailing the state about that this morning just to see what they had available. I don't want to say they definitely don't, but I haven't seen it yet. But once they do, we will definitely distribute that information. I know on one of the other pages, I don't know, Matt has control right now, but we had also a splash page of the New York site and kind of what they're doing for that state. So a lot of states are popping these different procurement assistant pages up. But as far as Connecticut goes, I have not seen anything yet, but I assume it's coming down the pipe soon.
Would you recommend if we are already registered, let's say at GSA and the SAM websites at the federal level, that there's already some exposure? Should we revisit those listings?
I would consider doing that, absolutely, yeah, and kind of adding your new capabilities, your updated capabilities to that. And I know the resources that were sent out this morning, it might have some more information on it that we received, so I will distribute that as well to see kind of what they're saying as far as on the federal side.
Okay. All right, that's it for my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Jennifer, do we have any other questions?
I just want to add a quick note, if I could. If you start piecing together what you hear here, the gentleman in Michigan, obviously automotive, has slowed down, but he has an incredible team of capacity. The gentleman down in Connecticut, more at the tier 3 supplier, tier 2 supplier. What you're going to see is the tier 1s that were making X amount of ventilators are at capacity. We can't make more out of those end units. We need more prime vendors to these. So it sounds like we're going to see some creative people come together and say, we used to be a prime to an automotive, but let's be a prime to this side of, what procurement is. And you're going to see a change in the supply chain really quick. You're not going to just be selling into your typical tier 1s like you were, the integrators. They need more capacity across the board. And that's what I heard in Michigan, that capacity is there. So we're going to have to create new tier 1, 2, 3 chains that may not have existed. So each one of you guys should be looking at how you can work with people that might have capacity. That's just, we're all looking for, how do we get there? And that would be just something to give you guys to think about, because I think we have the creative answers on this line that can solve a lot.
Thanks, Matt. And we did get a note from somebody regarding Michigan, and they're saying, the first vital step is to indicate your capabilities. So thank you for that inquiry, and I think it's just important across the board. This is what these different platforms and portals are going to be looking for. Jennifer, we're going to stay on for a couple more minutes if folks have questions. So, Jennifer, do we have any other questions?
Yes, sir. The next question comes from Bob Becker. Your line is now open.
Hey, Bob. How are you?
Good. How you doing? This is Bob Becker from Michigan, and I'm going to be starting to manufacture splash shields next week. I'm not listed as an essential supplier. The question is, do I need to be? And if so, how do I do that?
Matt, Mark, or Marat, anyone want to address that? I don't know if I don't have an answer to that question. Marat, do you?
Hey, Tony.
I'm not familiar. I don't know. I know in Rhode Island, the Rhode Island Manufacturing Association is going through that process now, but I don't know how to do that in Michigan.
I would just say having capabilities that show medical necessity products that you're making certainly helps that argument of being essential. So you want to be armed with information when you have that day, if you will, for it.
And Bob, we got another note from somebody. And we'll share the resource. So the resource, michigan.gov, so that you should email them directly regarding that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Jennifer, any other questions?
Yes. The next question comes from Vlad Alexandrescu. Your line is now open.
How you doing, Vlad?
This is Vlad Alexandrescu. You got that almost right. Thank you. So I had more of a comment, and it's about along the lines of what you were saying to make it easy for them to absorb the information that you're throwing at them. So if I'm a buyer and I have 100 emails to go through and they have 100 spreadsheets that I got to look at with these capabilities, it's easier for me if they're formatted similarly. So if you guys are going to send out a template, I suggest everybody use it as closely as possible so that we're all kind of in synchronous union as we approach buyers. Because it's all about making their job easy so they can pick someone and cut that PO or make that business relationship.
Oh, that's definitely a good point. Thank you. Jennifer?
There is one last question in the queue.
All right, this will be it then.
All right. The next question comes from Mark Rivera. Your line is now open.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mark Rivera with ICER Consulting out of Newburgh, New York. We're an economic development. Thanks. I'm doing fine. I live in Connecticut, but we're an economic development firm in New York with clients in Connecticut and New York who currently have hundreds, if not thousands, of employees sidelined. That 85% of the business that we can come in contact with are light to medium manufacturers. So how do I get this information to them? Because they are willing to help in this, current crisis. and have that capability to assist even on a national level or local level. But what would be the easiest way other than telling them, physically, reaching out, or as far as what the needs are and getting that information to them?
Mark or Matt, do you want to take a crack at it, or do you want me to?
Yeah, well, certainly it's not easy. Everyone's still going to have to, there's a million people that have some capacity that everyone's trying to get that information to, in this case, a lot of the same people. My opinion is, first, make sure you're ready for it. You can't just say, oh, yeah, by the way, we do a really good job at something. You want to have data sheets, all your numbers should be there. And unfortunately, on small businesses, that's a challenge. This is stuff that they had legacy contracts for years. They never had to do this. So it's, you got to think about this. You're meeting new people now, but it's a healthy exercise either way. They're going to want this now. They're going to want this later. This is just expediting it. As for how to connect with them, like I said, I think the bigger opportunities is working within the supply chain that they already have. If you supply to a tier above you, they're going through this exact same problem. And you're asking them, how are you going to solve this? What are you working on? Because every single company I would imagine right now is working on getting into that same line of thought. So team up with them. Tell them how you can help contribute. It's not going to be a single company effort going to land that contract to supply New York City with X product. It's going to take a team. You're going to have to work with the people you know. And how do you come up with creative solutions with the teams and the supply chains you guys have already created? I think we're going to be amazed. I wish I could give you a direct answer, but it's going to be hard work and it's going to be creative. That's what all our American companies are so good at, though. And so I hope that gives you a little answer.
Difficult roads lead to beautiful destinations.
That's what we're doing.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I mean, we put this together pretty quick, and I appreciate Matt and Mark and Marat being on the call and sharing this information. There's a lot of information out there and a lot of resources coming in on the state and federal level. What we're going to try to do is, we don't have answers to every question, obviously, but we're going to try to consolidate as much information as we can and distribute that to all of you as it comes out. And as there's updates, we'll continue to kind of get that information to flow to you. I just appreciate, everyone dial in today. If there's any questions, comments, concerns, please shoot me an email, let me know. But that's going to do it for today's call. Thank you for joining.
Thanks very much, Tony. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
That concludes today's conference. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.